Brawlhalla is one of the many gems of the free-to-play games market, considered by some to be the poor man's Super Smash Bros. While I wouldn't say the two are exactly the same, they are comparable as arcade brawlers. As a person who has played both, I honestly think I enjoy Brawlhalla more due to its fast-paced games, both in the timer and in the combat. Brawlhalla sets itself apart from Smash, both in its pacing and its movement, and in other mechanics, such as the two-weapon system. It is a more standardized experience than Smash, perfect for people who are new to fighting games and to games in general. Brawlhalla is the kind of game that you'd probably play if you had an extra 15 minutes or so to spare, but would end up playing for an hour or two because you didn't realize just how much you were getting into it. With a solid variety of legends, from those who have existed in the Stone Age to the Middle Ages to the far future, and a solid variety of game modes like free-for-all, friendly 2v2s, stock and time battles, as well as Strikeout, which happens to be a personal favorite of mine, there's plenty of content to keep you occupied for a solid gaming session alone or with the boys. As a free-to-play experience, Brawlhalla does a pretty good job. It functions very well as an entry-level arcade-type game because of its low download size and easy to pick up style of play. If you were to be looking for some party games to play with your friends, Brawlhalla is a great place to start. The relative ease in finding a main legend to play and learn makes the game very accessible to newer people, but its somewhat advanced movement system leaves a lot of room for growth and progression of skill, which is done very well. This progression is also accentuated by the amount of combos there are to learn with each individual weapon. The game is not one you're generally meant to spend a ton of time mastering, so the relative simplicity works in its favor, while the lightly complex elements of the movement system and room to improve do a fairly decent job of retaining player attention because you aren't going to be absolutely shredding people right from the get-go. One thing the game does a really good job of is getting you really excited while you play, as any good arcade brawler should. Due to its fast-paced nature, the game shows you straight into the action, guns blazing, and ready to go. Another thing the game also does really well is provide an appropriate sense of impact for the image that you are presented with on screen. If you hit someone with an axe or cannon or some other heavier weapon, the sound design makes you feel the weight behind it. If you land a heavy attack with pretty much any of the weapons, you feel the impact of smacking someone with the might of Zeus. Landing a hit with any of the gadgets, those being the bomb, the drill bomb, the spike ball, and the horn, sounds appropriate for the image presented to you on screen. I know I'm repeating myself a bit, but I'm trying to say that the animation and the sound complement each other very well. Now personally, one of my favorite things to do when I play the game is drop whatever weapon I'm using in favor of the spike ball. As a gadget, it hits extremely hard, and unlike the bombs and the horn, it can be used over and over and over again provided you can aim it correctly. Observe right here as I edgeguard a man to death exclusively using the spike ball. The gadgets are designed very well as they are very straightforward and can enhance your gameplay when used right, but you aren't missing out on too much if you're not the kind of person who wants to use them. Now I'd like to take a second to rank all the weapons from my most favorite to my least favorite. In order, we have the sword, the gauntlets, the knives, the orb, the axe, the spear, the bow, the greatsword, the scythe, the lance, the cannon, the blasters, and the hammer. This list doesn't mean much, it's just my personal preferences. I really love the sword and I just hate the hammer. It's not that the hammer is specifically worse than the sword, I just can't quite get the grip of it myself. I happen to have multiple experiences where I've been completely destroyed by many a hammer or blaster user. I hate it when it happens, but I can still kind of respect it. I do appreciate how the weapons are actually distinct from one another and affect the playstyle of each individual legend. Each weapon has its own moveset and viable combos, which means that there's really a legend for everyone because they all have access to two. With all the many methods of attack, there are no physical ways to defend yourself by blocking like with a shield or something. There's only dodging. Aside from your typical running and jumping motions, you can double jump, attack upwards, and shield dodge directionally. The shield only lasts about half a second, so good timing is required to use it defensively. This prevents people from turtling up, which I personally hate in fighting games. It's one of the reasons why I prefer Brawlhalla over Smash. Using all of these options for movement, you can easily swap directions and avoid attacks, and so long as you haven't taken too much damage, you can recover yourself extremely well if you were to get knocked off of the edge of any given map. Just be warned to people who are edge guarding, because that is perhaps the most effective way to get kills even if the person hasn't taken too much damage. Another thing I love about the game is the throwing mechanic. Being able to throw your weapons is a very fun and valid strategy that also has a lot of BM potential. Say you see your enemy rushing at you. Well, you can throw your weapon to interrupt them, pick it back up, and counterattack. Perhaps you just sent them off the ledge but you aren't quite confident you sent them out far enough. Just throw your weapon at them, because if you aim it right, you can at least force them to use a jump potentially earlier than they wanted to. And if you're like me and you really enjoy memeing on people, there is one specific method that is developed just for you. The throw only method. The throw only method is a rule set my friends and I created, in which the only way you can intentionally damage someone is by throwing things at them. Finishing an enemy off with an unarmed punch, also known as the Sir Roland punch, is an acceptable way to damage them too. Now the point I'm trying to make with this video is that Brawlhalla is really fun, easy to pick up, and enjoyable, especially with your friends. I highly recommend to anyone who hasn't tried it to give it a chance. The only real criticism I have of the game is the cost of the cosmetics. Now I understand that as a free-to-play game, cosmetics are really the only option for the developer to make money that won't piss people off. All I'm going to say about that is $13 for a single character skin is a bit absurd. There are cosmetics which are cheaper, and there is the battle pass which gives you a lot of cosmetics for a pretty low price comparatively on a product by product basis. That's the only real criticism I have of the game. There's no gameplay that's locked behind microtransactions, which is a good thing in any game. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch my video. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing and also hit the like button on your way out. With all of that being said, I'll see you guys soon with the upcoming Siege video. Take care.